before we get into the show, make sure to do a couple things. First of all, click the subscribe button down below and make sure to turn on your notifications, please, in order to get updated content that I start to put out. I do put out weekly videos, so hopefully you enjoy those. The second thing you can do is to make sure to be empathetic and understanding for all of my guests that come on this show, but otherwise, enjoy the show. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Deep Dives in the Minds of Esports. My name is Blake Panashevitz, and I am really thrilled to announce my next guest. He is a League of Legends content creator and caster working with the LEC. Please let me introduce Dan Wyatt, maybe just better known as Foxdrop. Welcome to the show.
That's me. I'm so glad you introduced yourself with your full name, because seeing your second name, no idea how that was going to be pronounced. So hearing you say it, that's I've learned something new today.
Yes, it's actually Panashevitz. So it's like Manischewitz wine with a P. That's how I've always kind of described it, as especially for people who live over in Europe. That seems to be a lot more well known. Sometimes
is it
I
Polish
say that
or something,
here.
or?
Yes, it is. Yeah. I am third generation Polish in America.
Okay.
So my great grandfather came over from World War II, actually. To the best of my knowledge, yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. So, and speaking of cool things about people, I think that this is going to be a really fun show. We're going to go over a bunch of stuff. And I always like to start off the show very easy for my guests before we get into like the more hard-hitting questions. And so the first one is always a very easy slide right off question. And I'm going to start it off pretty easy. Your name, you obviously pulled it up from a Bloodhound Gang song called Foxtrot Uniform Charlie Kilo, which I personally...
How did you know that?
Well, okay, so first of all, I do a lot of research on my guests, but as soon as you mentioned the name of the song, I am actually a Bloodhound Gang fan.
You have to be the first person who, because I get asked that a lot, and when I say it's from Bloodhound Gang, most people have no idea who they are. You're probably the first person who's like, "Yo, I love Bloodhound Gang."
They're so good. I was going to ask you, are you a big Bloodhound Gang fan?
I mean, I wouldn't say like a big Bloodhound Gang fan. When I was younger, I know some of their songs. Man, what are they? I mean, the album was a fat geezer in a box, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, I remember that. There's obviously Foxtrot Uniform Charlie Kilo. There's the Untis song. That's a good one.
Untis one's good. Animal Planet is another really big one.
Yeah, that's everyone knows that one. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
personally, I like Untis better.
Yeah, Untis is. I think the more I got older, I think Untis is a better song. But Animal Planet's like, oh, it's so funny. Look, the lyrics of this song are really funny. So as a younger kid, I probably was like, that was the best song ever. I don't know.
Yeah, I always appreciated Bloodhound Gang for their ability to the way that they could craft innuendos in rhyme structure. I always thought was super cool, which is why I always liked the Bloodhound Gang. Plus, they had that like 90s rock vibe that I love 90s rock. So
I actually used one of their the Foxtrot Uniform Charlie Kilo innuendos. I don't know if I can say innuendo. I mean, the whole song is innuendo, but it's pretty obvious. But I used that in one of my videos, actually. I think I used the word pork steeple for something. I can't remember what it was for, but yeah, I threw that in there. So yeah, great influence on my work, even to this day.
Yeah, I'm looking to start up a D&D channel on the side, as well as like doing this one. And the preface behind it is I'm gonna craft in a bunch of innuendos with all of my like the stuff that I'm teaching people about, and just throw them out like here and there. So like rogues is like very easy. Are you someone who wants to go through the back door? Are you someone who likes to have so it'll be fun. So, but I
if you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, all the names are all innuendos.
My girlfriend loves that show. I don't really get into it that much, but she.
Well, you can ask her for inspirations if you want to name some NPCs. You can. I won't say them because they're pretty bad, but you can, maybe look into them.
Yeah. I will say that this show is not a PG-13 show. It's definitely a rated R show, maybe sometimes, depending on what guest I have on here. So don't hold back.
Fair enough.
So. Music was obviously something that you kind of enjoyed. What other types of music did you like? Were you a 90s rock kid? Did you like everything? Rap?
Right. So I was born in 93. So 90s rock, things like Blink and stuff was and like early Foo Fighters and kind of early Blink and stuff was probably, I say, a bit before my time-ish. When I was first kind of discovering music and getting into music, my very first album that I ever bought was 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge. Heard of that, which is a My Chemical Romance album.
I've actually never heard of it.
Okay, it's the one before the Black Parade, which is when they went like mega mainstream, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was, at least. I'm pretty sure it was one before that. But either way, it was. So I was always into that kind of rock stuff and all that kind of edgy, like Linkin Park and Nickelback, which I actually have no shame in saying, because it's like everyone hates Nickelback, but honestly, it's whatever, really. It's alright.
Okay, so I've always explained Nickelback. Nickelback,
Yeah.
Everyone says that they hate Nickelback, but I guarantee you can find at least one song that everyone will start like jamming out to. So
there's How You Remind Me, and there's two songs that are really good, but they're kind of almost the same song. How You Remind Me and another one. I can't remember what the other one is. Can't remember, but they're like two really similar songs. But Nickelback, I like that. Fort Minor was kind of like a spring off from Linkin Park, right? It has the same, can't remember his name, the Japanese guy who's like the rapper, kind of made his own rap band. But yeah, so back then I liked rock music. Now I'm way, I have moments where I like that, but I prefer more kind of like mellow stuff nowadays. I don't know if you've heard of the 1975, but that's like, I really like that. And like Busted as well, who's like an old boy band, which you may have heard of, like an old English boy band. Were really popular in like early 2000s, and they split up and disappeared, and now they've come back, and their music now is so chill and mellow. It's like, I love that kind of stuff now. But back in the day, it was definitely the kind of angsty teen stuff. Obviously.
So I was actually born in 92.
Right.
So yeah, I just look 12, but I do. I one time had someone ask, "Are you even old enough to be doing podcasts?" So yeah, so it happens.
Just a tad.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. But was the music that, like, you mentioned the angsty music, was it like an expression of who you were as a person? Is that why you kind of like went to it? Because a lot of people they're like, "Oh, I'm angsty, so I'm listening to angsty."
Yeah. I honestly don't really think so. Like, looking back at it, I feel like I don't really think so. I don't know. I think I just enjoyed it, really. I like the whole kind of just the sound of it, really. And it's kind of it's pretty it's pretty pump music, that angsty stuff. It's not total opposite of what I listen to now, right? It's almost a motivating kind of music, but not. Yeah, I just listened to it when I was playing like WoW and stuff. Like I wasn't really kind of sitting in my room listening to his music, like feeling like, yeah, that's so me. Oh my god, that's so deep. It wasn't really. Some people it is. You can project your own life onto these lyrics and process things that way. It wasn't really like that.
I grew up listening to a lot of different music from like the 50s all the way up through the 90s, and so that was like my rebellious phase, was listening to 90s, because my dad didn't listen to 90s at all, so I was like, I'm just gonna kind of listen to this. So you were born in England, right? Yeah. Okay, what is England like? I've never been there. I'm an uncultured American, so haven't traveled a whole ton. But what was England like, and what is it like living there?
Jeez, I mean, I live an hour outside London, in a county called Essex. A few people outside of England have heard of Essex. It has a bit of a reputation, so people watching this might know what.
What does it have a reputation for?
So you know Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
The TV show in America. Yeah. We have one called The Only Way is Essex.
Oh.
It's basically the same thing. I don't know which one came first, but it's a similar thing, right? And I'll tell you a statistic actually that I heard when I was in school, which will kind of sum it up for you. So in Europe, the country with the highest teenage pregnancy is England, and within England, the county with the highest teenage pregnancy is Essex, and within Essex, the town with the highest teenage pregnancy is town called Southend, where I live. So it's like you kind of get the idea of what that's like, but it's not. I mean, so it's southeast, right, of England, and the more south you go, the kind of more densely populated it becomes, the more like kind of white collar it becomes compared to up north, which is more kind of more blue collar, especially historically. So I mean, I don't know how many people live in my town, but it's really densely populated. My house right now, like the most popular kind of type of house probably down here is like a semi-detached house, which is where you have like a big building and it's just cut in half, and your neighbors, like, you don't have your own detached house. You just because there's no bloody space here. I just bought this house that I'm sitting in right now. I moved in like a few weeks ago, and it was my first house. I got into the house buying process. obviously. And for the price that I bought this bad boy, which is, I mean, this is not like a small house. It's like a 4-bed, but it's not particularly spacious. But for this price, if I bought a house in like Florida or Montreal or something like that, genuinely I would be living in a mansion. House prices where I'm at right now are actually so high because there's so many people around and I'm so close to London. So London's where the money's at. So people will live here and then get the train to London. Yeah. So it's always like when the housing market crashed in like 2008 and that huge recession and stuff, our house prices didn't drop. Which is pretty weird because it was a bit strange just because like the demand doesn't fall. And if demand doesn't fall, then prices don't fall, you know? So
So I have to ask you, why did you decide to buy a house there? Like your job is obviously not restricted to where you just live, and you could live ever. And especially with the new articles that are coming out related to your guys' internet policy, I would have been terrified. Yeah. But you might have not known about that.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, Article 13? I get mixed up between Article 13 and Article 15. It's like 12 through 21, I think. Okay, there's like a bunch of them. So, there's 2 articles. One of them's the Brexit article and the other one's the internet article. Both of them are pretty rough, but either way. So it's like, I always feel like we live in a capitalist society and everything is so consumer driven. Everyone is driven by money. Everything is driven by money. Yes. Just everything, like totally everything. You know, perhaps this is an unpopular opinion, but even things like racial diversity and gender inclusion and these kind of things that you're seeing a lot more in like the kind of video game base nowadays, like game developers and stuff. I mean, I don't think they're motivated because they want to be inclusive. They're motivated because it's like the inner thing to be, they're virtual signaling in a sense, you know, it's like, look how inclusive we are, buy our product. Same for people who, companies that, you know, champion climate change and stuff like that. You don't give a fuck about the environment. If you put that as wear that on your sleeve, people will, it's just a tool to boost your brand image, right? And therefore make more money. However, I should say, by the way, asterisk here, I don't think that doing these things is bad. I think it's still good, especially with racial diversity and then gender inclusivity, all that kind of stuff. It's still good. I don't think the motivations behind them are particularly pure, but it's way better than just not doing it, right?
Yeah.
We're definitely on the right track because the more people consume this type of media and content, I think it will actually, I do think it changes society's kind of outlook and definitely in a good way. So I don't want to say like it's rubbish. There are too many, black characters, too many female characters. Why is Captain Marvel worst Marvel film because it's a female? No, it's all good. It's fine. I'm not one of those people who gets aggy about feeling like things are forced. No, that's totally cool. Anyway, I can't remember why I said that. Yeah, because we're everything is driven by money. Is my point. So no matter what the face is, behind it is always how do we make money? How do we make money? How do we make money? So even if you look at things like Article 13, which is the internet, the EU's internet bill, which is the censorship stuff for the copyright thing. I mean, it's lobbied by big companies that want to protect their IPs, i.e., make money. So they're interested in making money. The politicians only vote for it because they're being given money by people who care about money. It's all money. So the way I viewed it was, what is the worst that can happen when, if all people care about is money, then things like YouTube, Twitch, or whatever, everything that my job is involved in, these are massive, massive corporations. Twitch is owned by Amazon. YouTube is owned by Google. Do you think either of these two are really going to just cease operations in Europe? They have too much money to disappear. Let's be honest, right? Yeah. It's just not going to happen. So I know to that extent, perhaps this is naive of me. Perhaps this is maybe I'm an idiot. I don't know, but good chance that is the case. But either way, I just think that when there's that much money on the table, it's just, I don't think worst case scenarios are ever gonna happen. YouTube is not gonna get banned in Europe. How much money would YouTube lose if Europe just pulled out? like outside from America, YouTube is like the best kind of ad rates that you get, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're an advertiser, you want to sell to Europe, like big time. You're just gonna cut that off. It's not gonna happen. Let's be honest. It's not gonna happen.
I agree. I
Like,
could see that. So was there something special with Essex?
I think I'm a bit of a home bunny. So to me, that's kind of ultimately why I stayed is like, I've been here my whole life, and yeah, I could move away, but firstly, where would I go? I mean, I could move to. I mean, people going to LA and stuff because that's kind of like the hub of internet space and stuff. But meh, that's also really far away, expensive, whatever. Could go to Berlin because that's the LEC where I cast. Make that a full-time thing, or try and make that a full-time thing. But I mean, realistically, I'm like an hour and a half away on a plane from Berlin. The journey itself is a bit longer than that, but it's not,
it's like a day.
terrible.
Or not even a day. It's like half a day travel.
It's like 5 hours door to door.
Oh.
I don't like travel, but I mean, every few weeks, 5 hours compared to living somewhere, fine, I can do that. I just have no reason to leave, so I'm here. Plus, on the upside, yes, this house is expensive as hell, but if I go to sell, move on, it's going to sell for a lot as well. It's not like I'm, buying high, selling low. Hopefully, I hope nothing happens to this, But in theory, I mean, that's the thing, right?
Yeah. So you kind of get your money back. That makes a lot of sense. So do you have a lot of family in Essex then?
So I have my dad and my brother. My brother's also a YouTuber. You may have heard of Fire.
I have.
Yeah, cool. So he's also he's knocking about. We were living together actually until we bought so he wanted to buy a place, which then so we both bought our own places, kind of thing. I can't live with my dad as well, so he's I bought the place, but he's living with me still.
Yeah.
Which is great. I love that because I love my dad. We get on really well. It's like Dr. Evil mini me, except I'm actually taller than him now. He's 5'11" and 3/4. He's not 6 foot. 5'11" and 3/4.
Oh snap!
That's literally a quarter of an inch off of 6 foot, but he's not 6 foot. Anyway,
you hold that above him. You hold that above him every time you can.
Yeah, if he can't reach something, gosh, imagine if you're 6 foot. So if I am very attached to my dad, and to my brother as well. Less so to my brother. I think I've lived with my dad my whole life, right? My parents split up when I was 8 or so. I don't know, I was pretty young. My mum now lives 3 hours away. She's been away she's been like that for over a decade. So I'm I love my mum, but I don't have any kind of dependence on her. She's been out of my life for a long time. I see her once or twice a year. Not similar concept with my brother. He's very independent. He went away to uni for a while, then he lived away for some time. So I know I've lived with him when we were growing up, and then most recently for 2 years, the past 2 years. But now, he's got his own place, but he's still local as well. So he's only 10, 15 minutes away from me now. So that's cool. But honestly, it's kind of the family that keeps me here. It's not really any, I don't have a social life locally because, well, we might get into that later when you ask me more questions, but, that kind of, I dropped out of school and stuff, and now I live online. It's not the best way to have local friends when all when you're just online all the time.
Yeah, you are online quite a bit, and I do want to kind of ask you some questions. So you said your parents divorced at right around 8. My parents actually divorced right when I was 6. I actually come from a triple divorce now because they both got remarried and then divorced again. So that sucks, by the way.
Yeah, it does.
But I remember it being because my parents, it wasn't very amicable when they divorced, and it was pretty much my entire growing up was pretty bad with them fighting back and forth over me and my little brother, because my brother is 4 years younger than me, that caused us to grow very close together. But I remember the divorce itself was kind of very hard, and it was confusing, and it was a struggle, and there was a lot of very negative things that happened where they're passing secrets or trying to play sides and stuff like that, and it was not fun for me. What was it like for you? What was it like when your parents got divorced?
I mean, I was young. I'm the younger brother, so I think my brother would have a way different experience a different answer to your question as well, because I think he took on the kind of like guardian role of me in a sense. I think I do remember my parents fighting, but I don't remember a huge amount, honestly, just in general from that time. I remember my brother would always say that anytime they were arguing, I was like, yeah, they're getting a divorce. And then my mum would rage, be like, we're not getting a divorce. And then what softened the blow was three things. Firstly, my dad is like the best dad anyone could ask for. So when my mum left, and eventually she moved really far away, she stayed local for a few years, but then she moved away. I don't even know when she moved, but yeah. So my dad just took everything on, and it was great. You know, I didn't feel like I was missing anything. Second thing that helped was my gran, so my dad's mum, was just another amazing human being, and I actually lived with her for a while. When I turned 14, we lived with her for a few years. She was basically like my second mum.
Yeah.
But then she passed away just very suddenly, and that sucked. And the third reason is I actually got a dog pretty much around the time my mum left, because we were always talking about it, and I think my dad was like, wow, this is a bloody good time, right? Get the kids get a family, just extend the family, I guess. And he survived until actually only a few weeks ago.
So sorry.
Wait, what's the date? I don't. Oof, it's not throwing my phone around. Yeah, it was. So he was like 20 when he died. He was in my videos and stuff. I don't know if you watched any of my streams.
Yeah.
The chat cam. Yeah, I had him in the corner. He was great, and he helped a lot. But I mean, 20, like
20 is really, really old for a dog. That is, actually,
exactly.
But it would be hard. It would still be like, it's like losing a family member who you've literally had with, like, he's been around since you were like very, very young. Like, you're
right, and
like,
everything difficult in my life, he was there for. You know, it's like losing Shad is the exact thing I would need Shad to help me through, right?
Yeah,
and that was hard. 'Cause I used to sleep in my bed every night as well, so it was. I remember actually on the day I couldn't sleep, obviously when it happened, and I had to get my dad to change my bed for me because it's like it smells of Shad, because he just used to sleep in my bed, right? So like I had to change my bedding. I mean, it's not like it smelled like a fucking pigsty, but you know what I mean. It's just so, and I couldn't. Yeah, that was tough, but almost fortunately is not the right word, but we'll use it anyway. He passed away before we moved into this place, so we left a lot of things behind, in a sense, starting fresh here, and there are no memories, difficult memories of that in this place, which is nice. To be honest, it was a lot. I don't want to say it was easier than I thought it would be, but it's one of those things where you think about it, it's like that is unthinkable. Like when that happens, I'm gonna be like I can't even think about how I will react when that happens. But obviously it happened, and it was easier to deal with than I thought.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, because I mean it really could have messed me up, right?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, in theory it could have really destroyed me. So on the plus side, that one wasn't. It was hard, but you know, that wasn't. Could have been harder. So there's that.
Yeah, that I'm really sorry that I didn't realize it was only a few weeks ago. I just like, because I was in fact watching your videos and stuff, and I was like, oh, there's this dog, and I'm like, wow, this dog is still, it's still alive. Like, this is amazing. Like, and I was going to ask you if the dog was still around, but I just feel like a dick.
No, I mean I still get it in my stream, like Foxy, where's Shad? Because I would always have the chat cam when Shad was around. Like, you know, I have an account called I Watch for Shad on League, because it was just like a joke on my stream. It's like, no one watched for me, there's here for Shad. And so when Shad's not around, they're like, yo, where's the stream rank? Get his ticket off. Where's Shad? So that happens, people come in and like, yo, Foxy, where's Shad? And it's just like, I don't know. I mean, it was harder when the wound was fresh. It was harder to read those comments, but now it's like, no,
You're going through
okay.
the grieving process. You're kind of getting more through it. It's been a few weeks.
Been a while, so it's okay.
So when your parents divorced, you got the dog that really helped. What was so I had a very unique custody thing where it was like every other weekend I would go visit my dad. And then like during the summer I would live there. Did you have something similar to that? Or did your mom basically just
once a week we live with my dad, and once a week we see my mom. And then when she moved really far away, then I mean when she moved away we were like, oh man, I can't even remember how old I was. But we were, old enough to, like, we didn't need my mom. Well, I didn't need my mom. You know what I mean? Like, we weren't reliant on. It was okay at that point, So yeah, we used to see her every week, and it wasn't a huge amount considering she was pretty. She only lived like 10, 15 minutes away from where we were living. Didn't really see her that much, but saw her sometimes.
So did the divorce cause you and your brother to get closer? Because that's what happened with me and my brothers. We actually got fairly close. It's actually a very odd relationship now that I've like looked at like other people and like their families. Because most brothers weren't as close as like me and my brother were most of the time for us growing up, and a lot of it was because of the divorce itself that we got very close. And I actually took a protector role with him to kind of try to help shield him as much as I could from things. Did you and your brother have a very similar thing?
I'd probably say yes. I mean, we are very close.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is my best friend. Like, if I got married tomorrow, like, best man, my brother, right? Just hands down. The only thing I'm hesitating over is whether I'd attribute that to the divorce. I mean, maybe, sort of. I mean, he's always been that kind of like, like that protector, but I don't know whether that's because of that.
Yeah.
It happened at an age where I think, you're starting to become more self-aware and more, well, not just self-aware, just aware in general of like just stuff. And so maybe my brother thought, that he needed to do that. And so I don't know. Obviously I can't read his mind about that stuff, but maybe it was that. Maybe it was not that. I don't bloody know, but we are very close, so that's fortunate.
So what was school like for you growing up?
Oh man, so when I was in primary school, which is from ages, it's about from 7 till 10/11, depending on your birthday. I was really happy. School was easy because I was pretty bright, and I had like loads of friends. It was great. I loved it. Whatever. Happiest days of my life. Then when I was in secondary school, which is from ages 11/12 is your first year to like 16, I think. And then you have 2 years optional at the end of that, which I think you might have to do those 2 years now. It wasn't when I was at school, but I think it might be a law that you have to go for those 2 extra years now. That was like my teenage years. That was all right. The problem is that I went to a grammar school, which I don't know if you have an equivalent in America, but it's kind of like,
I've actually never heard of anything like that before.
It's kind of like a private school, if to my understanding, I mean, we have private schools here as well, but if to my understanding, private schools are like the top tier schools, but you have to be rich to get in.
Yes.
Grammar schools are like that, except you have to pass like an exam when you're 11. So but when you're leaving primary school before you can get into the secondary school, you just have to take a test. And if you finish in the top percentage, then you get admitted to the school. So it's like the concept of a private school, but based off of academic merit and not the wallet of your parents. Having said that, there is a big overlap still of money is a magical thing. There's a lot of rich kids in those schools, as you'd imagine, because the rich kids can afford to have tutors to whatever, right? so yeah, I went to grammar school, which was kind of far away. So I remember I had have to wake up at like 6:30 in the morning to arrive at school, or to get ready to arrive at school at like 8:30 or something. But it did mean that I lost a bit of my social life, because when I was younger, my primary school was like within walking distance, and now I have to go kind of far away because I'm going to a better school. But I don't have any local friends anymore because I was living in a poor area, which was far away, and none of the rich kids lived in the poor area. And
What did your dad do for work?
He didn't work. He just raised us, so he was on benefits.
Okay.
So he. And when we were older, he would start doing, he started part-time stuff. But when we were growing up, he would just look after us, just full-time single parent sort of thing. So that was another thing. I got free dinners when I was at school because my dad didn't work. Which free dinners in an environment where the kids are like millionaires is like a bit weird, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't like the only one, and I guess I didn't actually feel that myself. I didn't really feel the kind of that like class divide. Maybe I mean, looking back at it, I guess I was just ignorant, but it didn't really seem to affect me that much because kids are kind of just kids.
Yeah.
Like it's like when you see pictures of kids who are like 3 or 4, and their best friend is like a white kid and a black kid, and then they get the same shirt, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, we're brothers."
Yeah,
because they just don't understand. They don't see that things are different, which is great. I wish the world was like that, but and I think when you get to a teenager, maybe I think I'm fortunate to have the experience I had where I didn't actually have like loads of really rich friends, and the friends that I had who were well off weren't like stuck up dickheads. They were nice people. So I didn't get bullied for that kind of stuff. I had a pretty easy time at school. Again, I was just lazy, posted my way through. I was bright enough to be able to do that, but I wasn't one of the best students there because I didn't apply myself. Just, I was like, I'm like,
it was like do the
classic
bare minimum necessary to get a certain grade level.
Yeah, exactly. I remember, I think my exams when I was like 16, I got like 5 A's, 5 B's, and a C or something. So it was pretty. But I did the easy stuff. When I got into like the next 2 years, I did the easier subjects, like business studies and stuff. It's like you're literally just chatting shit in an exam. I'm really good at doing that. My creative writing is really good. So topics like religious studies, oof, that's going to set off a few alarms. I don't mean it like that. It's just like essay writing, right? But like English language stuff, interpreting like books and whatever, and chatting shit about that. Yeah, like I said, business studies, bloody what a DOS subject that was. The hardest one I did was French, but I actually enjoyed French. So I think I got a B in that though. And like the math stuff that you have to take and the sciences, I did enough to scrape by, but I was not good at that. So I kind of got lucky that I was good at that things, and so I good at that kind of thing, like essay writing and chatting shit. So I just took subjects that allowed me to do that. Because you don't really need to revise if you're good enough at essay writing. You can make it sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because you get points for lots of different stuff.
Yeah.
And factual accuracy doesn't necessarily have to be where it's at. Like you can just beat around the bush and, still get some stuff here and there. So, yeah, all in all, school was relatively easy for me outside of the fact that I didn't have like my local friends. When I was in primary school, I was out every evening playing with the kids, running around in the dirt sort of thing. Got to high school, stopped, and that's why I got into gaming. So, and that's led me to this to here. So swings and roundabouts.
It's funny you actually mentioned that. So one of the things that I've kind of noticed, first of all, like working with like players and like talking to people in esports in general, is there's a very common trend that like later teenage years there's a significant change where it goes from like if there was any social friends, it tends to shift to being a lot more online and involving video games. Like there's normally a year in someone's life where you can kind of pinpoint, and if you talk to pro players, you could probably find something very, very. Every pro player I've talked to so far, there seems to be normally between like 14 and 17 tends to be the big years that you see either something happened and they decided to not like put themselves out there anymore, or they just slowly kind of withdrew from that. So, which, I mean, I'm grateful I did that because it put me in the spot that I'm in.
Yeah,
so,
it worked out in the end, both of us.
So.
It sounds pretty much exactly what it was for me. I mean, just play games because games are great. Started off with playing games with my like local friends who were playing online,
Mm-hmm.
and then got into the drug known as League of Legends.
Oh God.
And yeah, I know, horrendous.
Oh.
And they managed to wean themselves off of that, and I didn't. So that was the transition period.
So, see, I switched games, and so it was like I got hard cut off, and then I was like, I don't know if I want to start this up again. Like, because I got a job in Overwatch, and I was like, okay, let's just let's maybe just take a break from League. Every time I see like game, like I watch games, I watch like the esports stuff, and I'm like, I really kind of want to play that again. And I'm like, no, Blake, you don't. You say you do, but you really don't.
You really don't.
So, but growing up, you kind of had everything was going pretty well, and then there was a sudden shift where things got like really, really dark for you, where it kind of got very hard. And I know that part of that was your non-dying and getting sick. Was there anything before that, or were you pretty much good up to that point?
So when I was 16, things went a bit tits up. I actually remember, so I developed a really bad like anxiety issue when I was 16, which is still with me in a different way. But yeah, so what happened was there was one specific triggering event, and I remember it so well. So I was in my home, my nan's place, and I remember everything like this night. Holy fuck. I was playing a lot of Counter CS Source back then as well. I have so many hours on Counter-Strike. I still play CS:GO every now and then. Love that game. But so it was actually ironically, I downloaded like Vegas, Sony Vegas, which is an editing program.
Yeah.
And I was editing like a montage, shitty little 1Ds or whatever it was that I was doing. Funeral for a Friend was the song I chose. Rules and Games was the song. How do I remember this? Anyway, so I did it. I still remember the map I was playing. I don't know the name of the map, but I remember what it is.
Yeah.
I'd need to look that up. But I remember I remember the some of the kills as well. I remember doing a really awful like do the shot, rewind, do the shot again. God, I don't want to talk about that. But so I just made this horrific video, and my girlfriend was working at Domino's. I was like 16, right? So my girlfriend, she was working at Domino's, and it was like on a Friday, so she finished her shift at maybe like 10, 11 p.m. And then she's like, she lived maybe, she didn't live that far away from me, but I was like way closer. I was within walking distance of the Domino's. So she would just like come back to my nan's place and whatever, just stay over. And I remember I was doing that shit upstairs. I walked down the stairs, and when I reach the bottom of the stairs, I get this crazy head rush. I feel nauseous as heck. Kind of like I'm going to pass out or something. And then, yeah. So the rest of that night, I remember it just being like, wow, I feel really awful. And so everything else, I then started, my brain created these like associations between what happened that night and how I was feeling. So the smell of Domino's, legit. Seeing my girlfriend, being on my PC where my girlfriend was sitting next to me because I went to show her the video I made. She was as impressed as I was. Loads of things like that. And then from that, it snowballed out of control, because then I started getting the panicky about and anxious about, what if I feel like that again? It was just nausea. Like, for some people, it's fine. I've thrown up in the past. Like, I was 16. I drunk so much that I remember throwing up my mate's carpet when I was 16, going from one party on the way to the next one. I was like, I'll just lay down for a second on the floor, as you do. Bad idea. Throw up on the floor. But then I was like, okay, I'm good. Let's go. And he was like, nah, let's stay in for the night. Like, I don't even care about throwing up, which is a ridiculous thing about all of this. But the feeling of nausea is like the worst feeling in the world for me. And then yeah, like you get the anxiety about, you worry about it, and as is very normal with anxiety, you get butterflies, you feel a bit nauseous, right? So it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. I then would start feeling nauseous because of the anxiety, but the anxiety was about feeling nauseous. So I'm guaranteed I'm going to feel nauseous. And it got to the point where I was stuck in bed. I lost so much weight. You play Skyrim?
I do play Skyrim.
Draugr.
They're very.
That was me. I was a Draugr in bed. It was awful. I'm like just over 6 foot. I weighed 8.5 stone, which in
The 112 pounds, I think.
Yeah, it's not great for someone that's over 6 foot. It's pretty hideous. So basically everything just turned into, I just stopped doing everything. I dropped out of school.
Were you going to the doctors then? I can't imagine that you were being homeless much and losing all this weight, and people weren't like, "Oh my God, what is going on? We need to get you to the doctors."
So I did. What happened with that stuff? So I remember going to a ME clinic. ME is I don't know what that stands for, but it's like chronic fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
They thought I might have that. And then they were like, nah. I talked to the doctors about it, and they were just like, you need therapy. So, which was probably true. But I had therapy, it didn't really help much. But yeah, so but it was like I couldn't do anything. So it was even hard to get me to the doctors, right? I genuinely, I stopped playing sports, stopped seeing friends, stopped seeing my girlfriend, dropped out of school. Just everything was gone. Because everything would make me feel like shit, and I didn't want to feel like shit. And so I did what you should never do, which is I hid from what I was afraid of.
Yeah.
And then the unseen boogeyman permeated everywhere until suddenly I couldn't do anything, and I was just left in my little corner, and I wasn't even safe there, right? So much easier said than done to not do that.
Yeah, 100%.
But I messed up big time on that one. Definitely want to rewind on that. But so that's like the one triggering event. So to loop back to your question, the one triggering event was that. But then shortly after, my nan died. Horrific timing, by the way. Nan, if you can hear me, you did not do yourself the solid on that. Because I was messed up like this, and now I have to leave my house. Like I have to, like this is my safe spot. This is my foundations for which I then, get back on my feet, and that gets taken away from me. I have to leave the house. My dad got remarried, so I had to move in with my dad and my stepmom. She's lovely, so it wasn't a problem, but still, it's like, why did everything have to change right then? That sucks. And yeah, that just, I lost my physical condition was obviously really bad. I remember kind of climbing back I remember actually, because I dropped out of school and then I was going to apply to go back the next year. So it's kind of like I was a year behind.
Yeah.
But that was the last year I'd be able to apply, because then I'd be 18 and then I'd be too old to go back to school. And I remember walking from my place I was living to the school, to the secondary school. And I got there. I'm actually going to see how far it was, because it was now I think about it, what the bloody hell was I thinking? Like, that is such a long walk. But it was a long walk, and I arrived at the school. I'm gonna just it was dun dun dun. Actually, it's not that long. Whatever. We didn't know that part. It's like 2 miles, right? It's not horrendous.
Okay,
but
wait. Was it cold out? Because doesn't it get fucking cold?
It does, but it wasn't. The weather was fine. It was just distant.
Yeah.
Like it was just distance because, like, it's not that long, but when you're someone who's literally been stuck in bed for months.
It seems like miles.
Right. It was I was feeling good, so I did it, but that is a long ass walk for someone who doesn't get out of bed.
You were also pretty malnourished too at that point, because
just physically, like it's tough. Yeah, literally I was not in good physical condition. And I arrived at the school, and I was the guy said, it was like, he looked at me, was like, you look like a ghost, you're not ready to come back. And that was that. So yeah, I couldn't go back to school.
So you actually wanted to go back, and they were like, no, we don't.
Yeah, they were like, this probably doesn't sound, because he said, he was like, school is is hard work, right? Just physically, it's hard work. You're walking around like the premises, going from
You should
class
have
to
been like,
class to
bitch, I
class.
just
Like,
walked 2 miles to get
yeah, I
here.
know. I mean, I wonder what. I mean, there's loads of what ifs. I wonder what would happen if I challenge on that and be like, yeah, I'll work on my kind of condition and stuff.
Mhm.
But
So,
I mean,
so the doctor, you go to the doctors and they're like, what it really is therapy. Did you go to therapy?
yeah. So I had therapy on the NHS, which is the NHS is like a kind of Obamacare,
Mhm.
right? Which was okay. There's a huge waiting list though, and I think I missed like an appointment once, and so there was like the waiting list is like a few months. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
you
just
get
got bumped up.
recycled. You get recycled if you miss on.
Yeah.
If there's long wait lists.
You're right. So that happened. But I've had like a lot of private therapy since then. It's never really helped me. I don't know. It's just like it's obviously complicated. The problem now is I kind of wish. So I was actually a lot worse back then because I was stuck in bed. Right, I wasn't eating. I wasn't like
Yeah.
it was awful. Now I'm functional in my own home, but I'm 26. No, I'm 25 now. 26 next month. But I'm so far departed from when I was like a normal human being that I don't know what that feels like anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, whereas before it was like, here is me, and then this is my shittiness, and then I just have to remove this. Now it's like, this is me, and I'm trying to. But where do I go from here? This is me now, and it's like when I'm. It's like riding momentum is a big thing. I feel like when you have these problems. In the past for me, it was huge. I actually went out to LA. I don't know how I did that, but I did because when I was out there, I felt fine. I just rode that high until I came home. But now I don't ride those highs because when I reach them, I'm like, this isn't gonna last.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting to come back down, and it becomes very hard to, do anything, and especially enjoy anything when you just know, well, your brain is telling you that it's all going to go tits up, and you know that you're very bad at handling it when it does go tits up. It's kind of a combination, right? It's almost like a futility of it's going to go bad, and also when it does go bad, you're screwed. So it kind of just feeds into itself. So yeah, back then, it's like when I went to the school, I was feeling good, so I said, "Fuck it, I'll go," and just wrote it. Whereas now, it's like, if I'm feeling good, I don't trust it. It's like, why do I feel good? When I know I won't feel good soon, but it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It's like if I say I want to arrange to meet friends or go to LEC. LEC is very hard for me.
Yeah.
And I feel good the day before or on the day. If I were closer to how I was before, and in a good way, then closer to being like happy, normal, healthy, whatever, then I would feel good and I'd just ride it out. And then if something went bad, then it went bad, but I'm not expecting it to go bad. Whereas now, it makes it hard to reach the highs because before you reach them, your brain is telling you that there is no high.
Yeah.
The high is a lie, and you're coming straight back down. And like I say, it's always self-fulfilling prophecy.
So you mentioned these highs and lows kind of in your life, and can you describe what it feels like when you're in one of the highs? Because when I hear it, just the way that you're describing it out, it kind of reminds me of someone who might have like bipolar disorder, like actual bipolar, not like what people like. Oh, you're bipolar.
Oh my god, I'm so OCD.
Yeah, no. So like actual bipolar is one of the big indicators is you have manic and depressive phases. And I own a counseling firm, which is why I kind of know some of this stuff.
Right.
So you have like very, very highs where you feel like you could take on the fucking world. Okay, but then counter to those is the lows, and the lows are like the worst moments ever, where like nothing is worth anything. And so when you hear that, when you're in one of those highs, does it feel like you could take on the world?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be truthful with you. I haven't been in like a real high in a long, long time, but yeah, it's the best way to describe it. you know what? Can I describe the low to you?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think that will make the high easier to describe. So the low for me, well, isn't easy to describe either. But it's like, so imagine it's. I mean, I've been living with this for like coming on like 10 years now, and I still struggle to really just put it into words how it feels. But it's almost like a panic attack thing where I feel like it's dread is a good word to use. So I feel like this dread of everything is shite. Whatever's going to happen is awful. Like, not only is it going to be awful, but it's just going to be unthinkable, and it's going to be just like the world is going to end. You know, it's a real kind of like everything implodes around you sort of thing. Definitely something that completely sucks to live. You know, I've had moments where the thing that makes me feel the only thing that can draw me reassurance, because it's so hard to get out of it for me when I'm in one of those head states, is feeling like, well, what's the worst that can happen? I'd kill myself and then it'll be over. Sounds good. Which isn't good, by the way. But it you know, that's the way my brain functions in those places where it's like, if that's the worst, that's so sad to say that out loud. I've never said that out loud before. But my brain does that, where it's like, you know, if that's the worst case scenario, it would all be over. So cool, you know. But so those get pretty low for me. I'm not suicidal, by the way, just because whenever I describe, there's a difference between not wanting to be alive at times and wanting to kill yourself, you know.
Yeah.
And if anyone's watching this who is suicidal, I don't know what the numbers are, but
you should seek out help. Yeah.
Get some help, because these things come and go. And the way I describe it is, I'm the worst at keeping my own advice, but I will give advice anyway, is that whatever you feel about something is so imagine there's my three fingers here. This is the thing, this is you, and this is how you feel about the thing. And these two are not the same. The thing and how you feel about it are not the same.
Yeah.
So if this is your problem, right? Well, this is your problem. It's not this, it's this, right?
Yeah.
So my dad is a counselor, and he says the good news is it's all in your head, the bad news is it's all in your head. Yeah. So it's like, this is the reality. This is real life. And if you got rid of this, how you felt about it, and it was just you and the actual thing, everything would be fine. 100% guaranteed. Everything would be fine. So it's like, it is possible to get rid of this. Don't ask me how, but it is possible, you know, and I do believe that. I'm just really struggling to put my middle finger down and keep these two up. That's actually
I would say that I can do it, but I have missing fingers, and this one doesn't even like bend very far anymore. Oh,
okay. Well, there you go. That's nice. We're learning everything today. So, you know, do you know what I mean, though? This is it, you know, and these three fingers, and this is not the truth. This is not the reality. Yeah. This is what you're struggling with, but this is not what it is, you know? It's
a perception that your brain is creating for you.
Exactly. I call it like your personal filter. You know, things come in, you interpret them a certain way, and then your brain is like, this is what it is. But no, it's not. But yeah, like I said, there's a difference between feeling like you don't want, like, not wanting to be alive, and then wanting to actually, you know, like actively whatever, which I'm not. But so that's how it feels when it's like bad for me. I just, you know, and it's terribly demotivating because you don't want to do anything, right? Or you do want to do anything, and that thing is run away and hide. It's like, which is obviously the worst thing for you to do, because the more you run away and hide from things, the worse they become.
Yes.
You need to confront them, and you need to see that it's not so bad and all that stuff. Again, giving advice, not taking it, but whatever. So the highs, in contrast, the best thing about the high is it feels like you have a weight lifted off of you, because that shit just goes. I do remember last time I had a high. It was at LEC week 4. I didn't go to LEC week 2, mostly because of my issues. LEC week 4 was the first and actually the only week I went this split. Apart from week 2, that wasn't really my fault. I was scheduled to go on like week 6/7, and then Chad died. And then the next week I was meant to go on like week 8 or 9, and then I that was when I had to move house. So I just physically, that was not. And then I was meant to go on for quarterfinals, but because I hadn't been on before, they were like, you know what, so which is totally understandable. And yeah, anyway, so it was week 4 because I was desperate, because I remember thinking, I was like, I've not been as bad as I feel now in my entire life. Not because my lows are very low, but because I know I'm not, like, I don't believe in the high anymore, if that makes sense. I don't think this shit exists. And I've got to ride that high to achieve, because I know I'm going to feel the lows. And it's like, how do you pull the reassurance of everything's okay when you don't believe that it is? And you really don't believe that it is, because you just don't think, you're just so far away from when things were good, right? And I actually remember going to church. My dad's religious. He's also a counselor, a therapist. And I went to church because I was desperate. I was like,
anything.
Anything. I'm desperate. Like, I've been on different medications. It's not done anything for me. I've had loads of therapy. And, I just need something, And I know that, I know it's from my head. So I don't know. Fuck it. Let's just go. And I went and I really tried to give myself to it. And I remember I was in the airport in England, about to depart. I'm not afraid of flying. I just was feeling like shit because I'm out of my safety zone, right? Because I'm leaving the country. And I remember thinking, this isn't working. Like, I'm just feeling like crap. I know I'm going to have to fight this thing. I'm sick of fighting this thing. Fuck, feel like crap. This sucks. And then I remember sitting, waiting to board, and everything just went. I just felt this, like, it all just went. And it reminded me, it gave me hope, because it reminded me of like a chicken and egg thing where, I feel like shit because my brain is messed up. But my brain's messed up because I feel like shit. Right? How do you break the cycle? And suddenly I felt really good, and everything in my head changed. Everything just clicked and it changed. Suddenly I felt great about everything. I felt like I could do it all. I felt I could achieve it all. I felt I was excited and happy to do this thing, which is, I never feel excited and happy to do stuff. Never. And it all just went, and I felt that high, because the high was just feeling like a normal human being, and all the shit had gone. It was lifted off of me. And I remember thinking, wow. And then ironically, we arrived at the hotel. I got out the car. I started feeling nauseous, and it all went to shit again. And I've been like that since. So, but it was like, which is ironic, because that's actually the first time that's happened. For me, the hotel was like a mini safe zone, right? Like, the travel was difficult for me. But then when I'm at the hotel, it's okay. You can sleep, you can whatever, you can chill, you're at the hotel. No expectations, no pressure, you're good. And yeah, this time around, the hotel was my, so that sucked. But that's how I would describe the high. It's just a absence of the, like, demon that kind of lurks behind me and like just prowls around and like feeds on my happiness and stuff.
You picked a very interesting choice of, like, almost like career decisions, considering that you suffer through this on the daily. Like that.
Well, when I'm at home and in my safe zone, I'm fine. I'm fully functional. I don't feel like shit. I feel great. I'm okay. This is why it's kind of ironic when I say I almost feel better in the past, because that was not true of the past. In the past, I couldn't eat. I was stuck in bed. My home was not my safe zone. But I almost prefer them because I'm closer to, as I described. So, so I'm okay at home, but then when I have to leave the house, well, I don't want to say leave the house, but it's like specifically go to events and do stuff. Anytime where I'm like kind of the further away from my safe zone, like my home I am, the harder it is for me. Also, sort of answers your previous question about why I still live in Essex. And so, like, staying over in hotels and stuff can be a bit tricky because, my bed and right, as long as you're at night, you end the night asleep in your bed, that's okay, right? Hotels don't take that away from you. So yeah, it is an interesting career choice, because in theory I could just sit here and stream every day, make videos, and that would not kind of trigger anything for me, and that does suit me, and that's probably a reason why I've done this kind of stuff, right? And could be a reason why I don't get better, because it keeps me in my safe zone, right? I don't have a reason to breach it because I'm comfortable in it.
Human beings don't change unless you have a reason to change.
Yeah, and people are way more keen to do the easy thing than the right thing.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it becomes an issue when you try and take the YouTuber / streamer out of the house, which does happen, right? When it comes to casting and doing events and stuff. Yeah, that is difficult for me. So yeah, I have chosen an interesting career path in that sense. But I mean, I dodge those, like I dodged week 2 of LEC. I dodged All Stars in Vegas, if you remember that. I was invited to that, didn't go to that. I mean, LEC knows that I dodged week 2, by the way, so that's okay to say.
Yeah.
I just wasn't feeling good. I'm not proud of it, by the way. I'm not saying that it's, I got out of that one, didn't even have to go. Because I didn't get paid either for going, and it fucked me up for the rest of the split, so it wasn't exactly a good thing for me to do, right? There's nothing to brag about, but there are ways to, if I wanted to just never leave here and just make videos and just do content, then I could do that. And I shouldn't do that, but there are times when that is what I do.
So we talked about like the start of this and where it kind of come from. One of the things I wanted to touch on, this is something really random that I remember you talking about, is when you were 14, there were people trying to break down your door.
Oh, fucking hell. How do you know this? Did you watch the Riot Dog?
Okay,
was it in that?
So you have to understand that with this show, because I'm delving into things that people don't normally like talk about, I have to like go through things, and even if there is something that even slightly piques my interest, I kind of I'm like, I wonder if this was a thing, if there's more to this, where can we go with this? So I have to do an extensive amount of research. Like I was talking to you for like, it'd be like if we were friends, I wouldn't have to do all this because we would have talked about it. And so basically I have to make up like the like years of building up a friendship by going through everything that's out there on someone to try to kind of like pull through. Have you heard
of that interviewer who does that to celebrities? I can't remember his name, but he does a shite ton of research on like really obscure stuff, and then he asks them about it. He did one with oh my goodness, I'm blanking on this guy's name. He's a rapper. I can't remember his name, but the reactions he gets out of these people, because they are really obscure references that he brings up in his interview. I'll try and find his name and I'll show you. Like, you might appreciate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so do you want to finish your point about that?
Yeah. So at 14, you had people who were trying to break down your door, and it sounded scary and traumatic. Like, what was going on? What was happening? Why were people breaking down your door? Was it the area you lived in? Was it like gangbangers trying to recruit you? Like,
what is gangbanging in America?
It is okay. So there is the sexual term, obviously, but there is also there's also people who kill other people who are in gangs. Right.
I thought there was a slight language barrier there. So
my face is very red now.
To my extent, yeah, no. So basically, we didn't live in a great area.
Yeah.
Like I said, we grew up pretty poor, very poor, I would say. Single parent living on benefits, right? And our house was, I think it was kind of unlucky that we were a victim, because our house was kind of like the end, kind of like corner house of like a row of houses, all of them connected to each other, of course, because this is England and a poor area.
Yeah.
And there was actually like a ramp outside our front door that led up to like another area, whatever. So basically, ease of access. Okay. People would just do things like, it started with like throwing eggs at the house or whatever, and then just bored dumb kids, and then kind of escalated to throwing rocks through our windows. Escalated to the one when we moved was when they put they would kick our door in, so they just run at it and just kick it and like put their foot through it, and it was one of those doors which had like different wooden panels.
Yeah.
So they'd kick like a panel out of the door. And that was obviously a problem. And then the police would come, but what can you do? Unless you catch them in the act, they can't do anything. And then the one that really made us move out was they put a firework through our door, like through the letterbox, has put a fire, obviously set it off, and then yeah, it's like, okay, if they do that when we're not home or we're asleep or like my dad's out, and what's next, you know? So we had to get out, and that's when we moved in with my nan.
Yeah, so that house, I have to ask, because you mentioned like the broken windows, the broken door. Were you using like plywood to like board up the windows? Because I can't imagine you're replacing windows every time, because they just get fucking expensive.
Yeah, I don't remember specifically about the windows, but I do remember one of our neighbors was helping us patch up our door. He would come around with like a plank of wood and would just nail it to our door and would help us with that. But yeah, it was. I don't really remember the pure logistics of that.
Yeah.
It's very strange because at my core, I'm like a very chilled out person, so I don't actually remember being like really stressed out in that time. I would be playing games and hear it and just be like, fuck's sake. You know, like that would basically be it. I wouldn't like panic. Like now, if someone knocks on my door nowadays and I'm like, shit, who is that? Why? Who knocks on doors in 2019? Literally, who does that?
Okay, I do.
But like, you text the person who's inside saying you're outside and knock on the door. Yeah. But like, you know, it's, yeah, back then I just really didn't care. But obviously it was a big deal, so we had to get out of there.
Okay, so you're living with your nan, and she ends up passing away, and this is a really hard moment for you. You are already kind of breaking up to this point, and having like issues, and this is probably what, like, if there was any Campbell's back left to break.
Right? Did you say Campbell?
Camel.
Oh. Gotcha.
The straw that broke
Camel's
the camel's back.
Yeah.
If there was any Campbell's back left, this is what broke it. But what is like the most surprising thing is you had said sometime, or your brother had said, I can't remember which one, that she had died of leukemia.
Yeah.
How like hearing that, and like how quick it was and how sudden, like. How did it not get noticed before? How is it?
She was fine. She was like in her 70s. Wasn't like really old. I think average lifespan is like in the 80s, right? So it wasn't crazy.
No.
She was still very mobile. She'd walk around. She looked after herself. She cooked us meals and stuff, right? So she was fine. And then she just said she said she was kind of cold. She'd been feeling cold and stuff. So we took her to the hospital and she never came back.
Did they catch it when she was there?
I mean,
it was it might have been too late, but
it wasn't before. Yeah. So we didn't know before she went to the hospital. Like everything was fine. A week later, she's gone. Legit, it was pretty crazy.
So you're going through this moment where you're having a hard time leaving the house. Were you able to go in and see her?
Yeah, I remember. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So. Yeah, so my issues started around that time.
Yeah.
Or they hadn't fully fledged to the point where I was in bed at that point. That came a bit after. So I was able to go out the house. But yeah, I didn't see her a huge amount. I mean, there wasn't a lot of time. It was very sudden, and because we were living with our nan, there was a lot of things for us to kind of sort out. A lot of family came down to see her, and so we'd often have those staying around and stuff. I actually do remember one kind of particularly difficult incident was one of our cousins, or aunt and uncle, my dad's brother, and that side of the family, they would come down to the house and they were like cleaning it up and like putting things away, which we, I mean, it's almost like they viewed us as like squatters in the house sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they were just like, oh, this is so messy. Like, I remember we had loads of like plastic water bottles in a bag somewhere because, we'd use them.
Yeah.
Like we use them. And I remember them coming in and just picking up the bag and putting it in the recycling. It was just things like that. Just little things like that. It was just like, yeah, I don't know. It was weird for a while with that particular family. But it was difficult. There's loads of things that made it difficult. The fact we had to sell up because it was my nan's house and there's 5 brothers.
Yeah.
So my dad owned 1/5 of the house. He couldn't afford to buy everyone else out. And there were maybe 1 or 2 brothers who were rich enough to say, okay, we'll give you some time. The other brothers weren't able to do that. Just no dig on them. It's understandable. So yeah, like she died. Dad got married. We had to sell the house and move out. My girlfriend broke up with me like pretty soon after that as well. And obviously I was 16, so I was crazy about her first proper girlfriend. And yeah, that's everything that just went tits up. Like that was just chuck it all in the blender and just it was not good.
Yeah. I mentioned that was really hard to kind of like go through and deal. It's like so much stuff that just happens all at one time. Like Jesus
when it rains,
Christ. That is true. So you mentioned like it sounds like your dad has a very extensive like family actually, but everything you've ever talked about has really only ever been your dad, your brother, and your nan. Really, those are the only 3 family members you've ever really talked about. Are you not that close with other families? Are they not really a part of your guys' life? Because they don't make the big 3 that you talk about all the time.
Yeah, no, they don't make the big 3, but the big 3 are big. So
yeah,
you know, no, they would my dad has 4 brothers, and in those families, there's 2 families which have kids, so like my cousins. And those families would come down, a few times a year. We'd see them, but they would come down to see my nan. So, and then while we weren't living with my nan, then we'd go there to, just see the family, have dinner and stuff. When we were living with my nan, obviously we'd see them too. But when my nan passed, it was like, she was the glue that held the family together, right? So, but my cousins I'm pretty close with. Sort of ironically, I guess the ones from that family I described, it got a bit weird. That was only with the like aunt and uncle, but the cousins I'm really close with because they're like the same age as me and my brother. So even today we're close with them. The other ones, not as close with, but still, fairly close with that family. I think last summer, we all met up and there's a bunch of us just family seeing family sort of thing. So we're pretty close family, but obviously we don't see each other much compared to before.
So you're 17, you drop out of school. What do you do from like 17, 18? Like what was could you drop out of school and you're doing nothing, you're staying home a lot of times. I'm assuming you're playing video games a lot at this time. Is that pretty much all you did was sit home and?
Yeah, pretty much. When my nan passed, I was still at school. And I remember just bunking off all the time. I had such a problem with apathy at that point, where I was just like, this is not important.
Yeah.
This means nothing to me. And so I would get on the bus, go to registration, they take my name, bus home, straight up. Did that a lot. Yeah. So I would do that, and basically in the end I had just, because like school caught on and all that stuff, and in the end I just dropped out and I was just playing a shit ton of video games. That's what I did. But that is also how I got good at League.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't having any kind of like my life didn't have any real fulfillment in it. So what I did instead was I would find that through helping others. So teaching about League was my way to do that, was my remedy in a sense, where I couldn't make myself feel good, but if I make others feel good, that gives me value, right? Yeah. So yeah, I just know Life League, got good at it, made some educational stuff, and then that snowballed until, now my career.
How old were you when you first started? It was in 2012 when you first okay, that's the oldest video I could find unless you deleted older videos.
Right, I will. No. If we're not including my CSS, my Counter Strike video, my channel opened on why doesn't it say this anymore? Oh, fuck's sake! They've April Fools the website. So October 4th, 2012 was when my channel opened. So first video was late.
How old would you have been?
Oh my god, why are you asking me these questions? The other questions are easier than that. We're 2019 now, so I will be 26 in October 2019. So I was 19.
19. Okay, so that's what I thought, but I wanted to check what happened between the ages of 17 and 19 then. Because I understand when you started to do that, but there's like a whole 2 years of a gap there.
Yeah. I do remember having my 18th birthday alone at my new place with my dad and my stepmom. I remember that and thinking, this is depressing. So when I was like 15 or 16 or something, I flipped forward on a calendar to see what day my 18th and my 21st were on. Mm-hmm. And it was something like a Friday and a Saturday. And I was like, it was perfect. But of course, I ended up celebrating both of those on my jack in my room. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that didn't really happen. But so I think I just did nothing. I just played video games. I genuinely think that's all I did. I just sat at home, played video games, and didn't do much else.
Did that cause any issues with your dad and stepmom? Because most families, especially like pro gamers, you hear it all the time. It's very common. Yeah. You were just sitting home, and my parents didn't like this. They wanted me to either get a job or go to school or leave.
I think it didn't cause any issues. My dad, I mentioned he's a therapist, so he has a lot of empathy, and he knows. I mean, it was his mom that died, so he understood being through the divorce. Nan takes over, Nan died. Just loads of shit like that. Like, I think he got it. And he's also not a particularly like career-driven type of guy. I mean, partially, it's probably why he got custody and not mum, because my mum probably didn't more interested in other things, honestly, potentially. At least more than like my dad was like, as long as he has us, he doesn't care, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think he was more. I think not to say my mum didn't care about us, but he was more like that than my mum would have been, right? But no, I don't know why. I'd have to ask him. Why didn't he care about me just being a bum? I think maybe because I had plans, like when I tried to go back to school. I think I was making progress. And I think he understood. But I actually don't really know the answer. Maybe I'll ask him that. I mean, it's 1 a.m, so I can't ask him it now. But maybe
tomorrow. You have to let me know what he says, because I'm like highly getting interested.
Add an editor's note in the video.
Yeah. Editor's note. I don't know how to edit for shit. So like. So kind of looking at that, you get started and you start doing YouTube videos, and that's actually what started your career. Kind of is just doing these YouTube videos. Your brother, I was going to ask this. You're both obviously very successful YouTube content creators.
Sensations, yeah.
Sensation. Oh, let's throw some like big words out there, huh? So who started their channel first?
So I started first. My brother was still at uni, and I got him into League.
Yeah.
And he was playing, and he got kind of good. So he did a few videos for my channel. Okay. You might be able to find those. I don't know what they were called, but maybe if you just type in like fire on my channel, you might find ages ago. He did a few on my channel because I was like, yo, you're good at AD carry. I'm more of a jungle person. So, you make an AD carry guide, and I'll stick it on my channel, and, I'll give you the money or whatever. So he did that, and then he created his own channel and started putting his own videos on there. And for a long time it was quite he was a sprout, and I was watering him a lot. Every now and then he'd put a video on my channel, and then I'd do a shout out saying, I have my own channel, that kind of thing. And I mean, now he's bigger than me, gets more views than me. So we've kind of, he has outgrown we're both trees, but sadly I'm a bonsai tree. So we
well, to be fair, fair, you don't. I mean, you also did LEC, and
I have other stuff. Yeah, like
you have other stuff that you kind of put as more. Because if all you wanted to do was YouTube content, then you wouldn't have done any of that, and you would have figured out ways to.
We have different. We're different. We have different types of personalities, and as such, different strengths. And his pure like YouTube stuff is far better than mine. But like streaming, for example, I'm more suited to streaming. Just like personality focused content, I think suits me more, and that's why I'm also a caster. So yeah, there's pros and cons and stuff, but as far as just pure YouTube goes, he's the better brother.
I wanted to ask you this. It's really off topic a little bit here, but you stream on Facebook. Actually, why do you stream on Facebook? Is Facebook like, hey, Foxy, here, come stream on Facebook? Because I've heard that they are dishing out mad checks for people to stream on Facebook.
So you're asking me a question which I will give you an answer to.
Okay.
Kind of how questions work. So Facebook want to build a platform that rivals Twitch. Yeah. They have the resources and they have Facebook. It's a fucking big website. And they're trying to, make it so that they can rival Twitch and all that kind of stuff. So they have brought us and some other people over to kind of not only build the platform, but also kind of stress test it in a sense.
Yeah.
So that we can, just so that they get the best platform possible. And yes, there is a monetary compensation for doing so.
As there should be.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I have a contract with them, and so we're on Facebook.
What are the benefits for Facebook compared to Twitch? Like, is there something that you actually think that Facebook is doing better than Twitch?
So the best thing about being on Facebook, so the best thing is the chat. Mm-hmm. There's pros and cons to this, but the biggest pro is that I don't have any dickheads in my chat, like just none. In Twitch, you'd get them all the time, right? But because you don't have the anonymity, people, it's much more like hanging out with friends, which is great because like community is everything for streaming, in my opinion. As a streamer, obviously that could arguably be a downside as well. Without the anonymity, people like the anonymity online, right? So there's pros and cons to that. But a benefit that I like is that Twitch is huge, and they have so many partner streamers, and it's like they don't really care about you as an individual. And this honestly isn't really a huge criticism of Twitch. It's just business. It's like if you have thousands of these partners, right? Exactly. They care about Ninja, I'm sure. I mean, they advertise his stream and other people's stream. Like they care about Ninja, but why would they care about the smaller people? But on Facebook, because they've brought us on as like specific partners, it feels much more like you are a partner with Facebook. I have my own partnership manager who actually is like, I mean, I'm in a group and there's like 13 people in there, and like there's a geezer who looks after us and all that stuff, and it's like, this is actually a pretty small kind of community of creators there, and that's good because that means that I get the attention and the kind of care. Like just last night, I messaged my partner manager at like 4 a.m. to talk to him because this month I'm going to EU Masters. Mm-hmm. I can say that because this isn't going to be released for a while. Yeah,
you have like 5 weeks. You'll actually probably be there.
I'll be back. It's done.
Be back.
Yeah, it's come and gone. But that will limit how much I can stream, and I have certain stream quotas to hit and stuff. So I just want to get him up, and he's messaging me back, and just casually on Facebook Messenger, he's like, "Cool." He gives me some tips for things that I can do while I'm away to still have content. And it's like, Twitch wouldn't give a toss if I wasn't around to stream for them, So there are definite benefits to Facebook, but I will be honest, it's not a perfect platform. It's not complete. It still has a ways to go, and we'll see whether or not I'm part of that future. I'd like to be. I was skeptical whether I'd be able to build a community over there, but I have done so.
I mean, if you have one over there, then you've achieved like the biggest hurdle that everyone talks about with Facebook is trying to get all the viewership from Twitch over to Facebook. And once you have that, I imagine that it's actually probably not that bad to be over there. So you're a content creator. You've been building up that content. Being a content creator, one of the things I've noticed is there's lots of stuff that people like kind of do content where they like go out and they meet other content creators. They go to different events, and you've talked about going to events, but having the social anxiety that you seem to have. Is that something that you don't do as often, or you don't really enjoy doing?
So the funny thing about me and my anxiety is the actual thing themselves, them itself.
Like when you're there.
Yeah. And even if I'm doing EDC, like the actual casting, being on broadcast in front of hundreds of thousands of people, all the pressure, don't give a toss. Straight over my head. I know I'm good at it. I enjoy it. Just show up, chat shit, go home. No pressure, no anxiety. Hugely ironic considering what I've described to you.
Yeah.
But the pure anxiety comes from being outside my comfort zone. And the nausea that we mentioned before, and the whole kind of panic attack stuff, and how it all feeds into one, and which makes eating difficult for me. But I know I have to eat, because if I don't eat, I feel like shit. But if I feel like shit, I'm gonna feel worse. But I have to eat. I feel like shit, so I can't eat. So those things combine and make it difficult. It makes it difficult for me to go out and do these things. But so to kind of reference your social anxiety, like I don't have that.
Okay. Being
social, having friends. I mean, I don't drink. A lot of that, honestly, is because of nausea and stuff, which is a very normal thing. You drink and you feel a bit, well, literally, I'm sure every day. So the biggest reason why people throw up is probably because they get too drunk, right? And it happens. It's happened to me, so I know it happens, right? Everyone.
I actually don't drink that much anymore because of it. Because I don't like throwing up. I just I'll have a drink, happens, right? But that's it.
Yeah, but that's fine because you realize that there's the logic there of you've not, Whereas for me, I have like a sip of alcohol, my brain starts going like, wait, this is alcohol. You know what alcohol can do to you, right? And then bam, right. So I don't drink or anything. So it's kind of hard being a sober guy in a drunk crowd.
Oh, it's annoying.
Right, it's difficult, and so there's different reasons, and like often, if you go to an event, you have to like stay over and stuff. So, but that's it. It's the logistics of staying over, being outside my comfort zone. What am I going to eat? The best way I had it described was this is actually a point about introverts versus extroverts, and I would apply this to my anxiety as well. Is that introverts, when they worry about stuff, they worry about logistics. So how am I going to get there? When are we going to leave? What am I going to bring? That kind of shit. Extroverts, when they worry about stuff, they worry about the thing itself. Like, I hope I've prepared for this speech. Is the speech, I hope, blah, 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 whatever. Can't really relate some. I don't worry about that stuff.
Logistics are way more my thing too.
Yeah, right. So that's just how it is for me. It's like pure logistics of how are things going to go, or how are logistics going to go?
How long am I going to stay? When am I going to leave?
Exactly. Well, yeah, and the food thing is a big thing for me, and all that shit is obviously a lot of things kind of come to one. So when I was talking about that whole I don't really feel highs anymore. I'm just waiting for the lows. That influences it as well, because if you're not in a great headspace, everything like this finger here, as we talked about before. The reality, you and how you feel about it, your perception of it. When you're in a bad spot, this thing is bad as well, which makes this thing look really bad too. So for me, it's a similar concept where going to events is hard. I have friends who are like living in London, talking about, let's meet up. Like, I'd love to see them. It's only an hour away in London, but I'd have to get a train. And I've never been to them before, so I don't know the stations very well. How long am I going to stay there? What am I going to do for food? Yeah. Am I going to stay over there? Am I going to come back? And it just means that when I'm in a bad space, it's just much easier to say fuck it.
Yeah.
So.
But that makes sense.
It makes sense, but it ain't good.
Yeah, no, it isn't. It isn't.
It's not good. But it makes sense.
I'm not
In
going to
a
preach to the
logical way.
choir about things that you should do, though. So you
Right.
know the things that you have to do. It's just whether or not you go out and like do them, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna preach. One of the things I wanted to ask you is you come into casting in a very unique situation. You have a very successful brand outside of casting, and casting is more of like a side job. Whereas if you look at other casters, a lot of them have quite literally they built their career on being casters, and that is like their primary income now. And they don't really have other operands. There's a couple that do. But I know that I had Pyrotechnics on here, actually one of the first guests that I had on here. And I had asked him about like the caster cage because it gets brought up related to like Riot. Is there like some sort of caster cage where you get kind of stuck there? And I think that has recently changed because of like, you look at someone like Shox, who is now doing more contract work. And I think someone else is too, so that they can take other jobs. And she was at like Blast Pro Series and stuff like that. Yep. And so it seems like it is changing. But I was going to ask you, do you feel like you have a lot of negotiation power related towards that, where you can't be really stuck in a cage because this is something you're doing more as a side thing rather than your primary?
I have leveraged I've attempted to leverage my brand in casting negotiations. The only thing is that I haven't done any like big events.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I just have like a budget and it's like take it or leave it sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's not like really low or anything like that. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started doing the UK scene, like the small scene, obviously that wasn't a lot of money. I just did that for fun. But obviously it's a small production, like they can't pay me shit tons of money. Riot compensates very well, but I feel like they value primarily my kind of contribution to the broadcast above everything else. Mm-hmm. There are other things out there that I can leverage, like my social media followings, like the fact that I have this other brand going on. But ultimately, what they care about is how am I gonna do on the LEC? What's my performance on the LEC going to be like? And therefore, what do we pay him relating to that? So, it's not really something that's been able to benefit me in that sense. And I think if I were looking for a pay rise of some description, then the way to do that would be the easiest way to do that would be just become a better caster, become more invaluable to them on the broadcast. I'm sure if I exploded as a YouTuber / streamer, and became like this huge deal, Tyler 1 status, and they wanted to bring me back, sure, I could use that to get more money. But realistically speaking, it's mostly just they care about who you are and how you are on the broadcast and compensate you relating to that.
So you're almost like you're freelancing for them, right? You're doing contract work for them. Is there a difference between the people who are there full time and almost like the contractors? Like, do you feel like almost like a divide of like, oh, these are the regulars versus the person kind of like coming in?
Nah, there's no divide, especially since Deficio last year and Shox this year went freelance.
Yeah.
And there were two like premier kind of talent on the show. Most of the Riot guys. The only difference is that Riot guys are there every day in the office, like creating the show, making content for it, and all that stuff. Whereas contractors often have less office days. Obviously, they still do the show days. Deficio, for example, was doing a lot like what I was doing, where every week he would fly from Denmark to Germany, do the shows, and go home straight up. Like he'd be there for like 2 days and go home again. I don't know whether he did any remote stuff for the show, but at the same time, you'll be compensated for the amount of work you put in. If I did some office days, I'm sure I'd get paid more for office days. And the Riot guys are on a salary, whereas I'm paid for each show that I do. So, but there's definitely not a divide. I mean, Medic, for example, Medic is the perfect example of someone who is a contractor, but he is full-time. He's there every day at the office. He's there every broadcast, but he's not Riot Medic. To be honest with you, I think it's mostly a bureaucracy thing, like red tape and all that rubbish, where it's probably just easier for them to hire a contractor than actually hire an employee for whatever reason. I don't understand it, and it doesn't make any difference. So, but no divide.
One of the things you talked about, in fact, doing casting is suffering from like imposter syndrome, especially in this. So what's that like for you?
That's weird because I feel like my kind of style is very
It's very
confidence
unique.
based.
Yeah, and it's also very unique.
It's definitely unique, and it's very kind of I don't want to say bravado, but it's just having a laugh, right?
Mhm.
And it's hard to do that with like a timid personality. So in order to achieve it, you have to have confidence in what you're doing. And imposter syndrome by design is kind of a lack of confidence in something. It's almost an insecurity of, do I deserve to be here and all that stuff. I struggled with that in my first split, and the reasons why I struggled with it have not gone away, but my feelings about them, three fingers again, this bad boy is still here, but this one has changed.
So
right?
what were those three things?
The three fingers being me, reality, and the thing.
Yeah,
so
but what was the reality and what was the thing to you?
Right. So the reality is, I'm not an analyst.
Okay.
The knowledge of my in-game knowledge and my knowledge of pro play in general, like most of the color casters, you could take them out of casting and put them in a coaching position, and they do okay. Froskurin used to do draft coaching for teams. Deficio now is working with Origin. Vedius used to be a pro for Excel, actually, ironically, back in the day. Ender was doing stuff. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if he did any stuff for pro teams. But he's on the playtest team, so of course there's like every single piece of game knowledge that is available. A lot of the OPL guys actually have done coaching or are coaches or whatever. And it's like, if you chucked me in a coaching position, I wouldn't know where to begin. It's just not my strength. Obviously, I can learn that, and I am trying to improve that, and I am watching like VOD reviews is helping me and stuff. But the amount of shit that these guys chat backstage about the game, the color casters, it's like, to have the confidence to be able to say that is terrible. When I look at that and I'm like, yo, this guy's a pro player. Surely he knows better than me about what he's doing. Like when you question him, it's like, surely he's not that, like, he's a professional player.
Yeah.
How is it that easy for us? There are millions of people that play this video game, and there's like there's 5 people per team. There's like 10 teams. So you got the top 50 of literally millions, and you're saying that's dumb. Oh, that's also dumb. Oh, this is dumb too. Oh, you should be doing this. How can you how do you have the confidence to critique something like that? I don't know where that comes from. Not to say that they're like wrong, because they know their stuff very well, but it's just like, I don't have that confidence in my analytical ability to say those kind of things, and that influences stuff in cast a little bit. It influences a bit about how much detail you can go into when you're talking about larger macro stuff, win conditions and things like that. It has an influence on, as a color caster, how much you can talk about. So that's where I thought my imposter syndrome came for, because I was not that knowledgeable about the game, and every other analyst or color caster on the LEC or EULCS as it was knows a shit ton about the game.
Yeah.
Huge amount about the game. So that's why I felt really out of place, because I'm much more about my personality and kind of having fun and making the viewer feel like you're sitting at home with a mate enjoying the game. So that's why I had the imposter syndrome. And that hasn't changed, because I still feel like I'm lacking in all that stuff. But my thoughts about it have changed, because now I realize that, yeah, I may not have that, but what I have is different, but still good. And I still deserve, it still has merit. It still has, it is a benefit to the broadcast. And, you know, like, when is Rift Rivals? Do you know when Rift Rivals is?
Offhand, no idea.
I'm gonna Google it. So
I'm also in NA, so like, to be fair, like anything that's not in NA, it has a little bit. I can look too. We'll see.
It starts in July apparently, or it started in July. Yeah, it's like a week in July. Yeah, it was in the summer split.
Yeah.
So can I say this? I can probably say this.
Probably.
I don't know who's on Rift Rivals, by the way. So I guess I'm not leaking anything. But I did message Quickshot, who's like the talent manager, like the dad of all the casters, and I said to him, I was like, I know I haven't been around a lot in the spring, and you know, I'm not one of your top guys. If I were, I'd be on the playoffs, right? But the reasons why I'm not one of your top guys is because I lack things that you think are needed for a serious playoff environment, such as analytical skill, narratives, these kind of things, right? He actually said to me when I was out there in week 4, I talked to him about playoffs, and he was like, "We'll get you out for quarterfinals, but when playoffs start, I'm not looking for an entertainer. And he says I'm an entertainer, right? He's not being rude to me. Like if you're a fly on the wall, it wasn't hostile in any way whatsoever.
No. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either, right? Like
exactly,
people have different strengths.
Exactly, I 100% agree. There's nothing wrong with him thinking that playoffs need more of a serious tone, and you let the games do the entertaining, and you just deliver it, right? And I agree with it. So, I mean, if you chuck me on the playoffs, would I do a good job? I think I would. But am I miffed that I'm not going there? Do I disagree with why he's not put me there? Absolutely not. I totally understand. And I also agree with why he's done it. But Rift Rivals, it's NA versus EU. It's going to be in Berlin this time. So, if you're looking to get banter out there and personality and that kind of thing, I messaged him and I was like, listen, I know the analytical stuff and serious tone that you're looking for the playoffs doesn't make me one of your top guys, but if you're looking for the personality side of things, I really think I would be good for this broadcast. So I've put my hat in the ring for that. Whether or not it will happen or not I have no idea, but because that is the imposter syndrome, right? It's not there. Imposter syndrome would have stopped me doing that because it would have said, you're not you're not in playoffs, you're not a great caster. There are 4 color casters, 3 of them get to go. You're the lame duck,
Yeah.
But because I don't feel like that anymore, and I realize I have strengths, and I need to work on my weaknesses, but I still have strengths, and I can still apply those to different things. That's where I appreciate what I have, and I'm looking forward to being able to kind of weaponize that more, I guess, to a certain extent, rather than feeling like I'm not good enough and trying to change my style too much to become more like the Fisher, become more like Vedius, when I don't need to. Like, I really don't need to. I need to, patch up some holes, but I've got to be me, I've got to be me, and I'm good at that. So that's what I got to focus.
One last question for you. Okay, I've already taken up so much of your time, and I appreciate it so much.
As you can imagine, I'm good at talking, so...
No, I love this. My longest episode has been like 3 hours and something minutes or so. So
who is that with?
There's 2 people. I think Sir Scoots is my longest still. I think I did 3 hours and 20 minutes with him. Which was nice. it was a ride. So but someone else had hit the 3 hour mark. So by the time this gets released, Anders was also 3 hours.
Is this like podcast format, or did you check it on YouTube?
I put it on YouTube and podcast.
Cool.
So
because I guess, like, obviously as a YouTuber, length of video is a concern, right? So I'm curious, I mean, if you let someone go for 3 hours, I guess it's not much of a concern, but if it's also a podcast type thing, then
so I actually do put up both, just because it is easier to listen to. But the thing you miss with podcasts, and this is like my only critique, is the actual, and this is something people have actually told me too, is like watching the way people talk and deliver things, especially when they get into certain moments. It cannot be translated just through listening to it, right? So, which is one of the reasons why I throw it on both. So, that's which fun. Is there. So the last question, very hard, depending on who you are, it is a very hard question. You've got to experience being on the show. It's fairly unique. If you had to pick...
show.
Yes, this show.
Okay.
So maybe it isn't. If you had to pick anyone, though, to come on this show, the only restriction is that they need to be involved in esports in some way. So they can be content creators, they can be backstage people, they can be casters, they can be players. Doesn't need to be with just League of Legends. Can be with CSGO. Or it doesn't matter the game. I don't care. Can be FIFA for all I care. So if you could pick any one person to be on the show because you wanted to hear their story, who would you pick?
I have 2 answers.
Okay, that's fine. I'll take 2.
Machine. Best host in esports. Second answer. someone's parent, pro player's parent, or someone involved in esports' parent.
That's a good answer.
They have a unique perspective on things, and they can tell you things that, well, yeah, it's like, I think that would be interesting. I think that would be really interesting. Good luck doing that or finding that, but you might.
You know what? Believe it or not, is that might actually be easier than getting Machine on here, realistically. Right. Like,
sure.
So
I mean, did you work officially with the Gladiators?
Yeah,
right.
For an entire year. So yeah,
I think there might be. You probably have enough context to make something.
Yeah, work. I could actually. I think that would probably actually be easier out of the two of those. But we're gonna see what we can do. I don't normally do shout outs. If you want shout outs, I'll let you have them.
I mean, just Google Foxdrop LOL and everything that pops up, click follow, we're sorted.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on this show, Foxdrop. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on here. It's been a ride. And for everyone out there, I hope that you enjoyed this show. And until next time, I hope everyone has a wonderful day.